Hi YouTubers. Okay, I've got a Father's Day gift from my family, which is new fog lights from I think it's Shark Racing is the name of the company, and this is going in a 2003 Hyundai Sonata. I found some information on the Hyundai forums around how to do the install, but I didn't see any YouTube videos. There's one aftermarket install, but I thought I'd do some video edits as I do this process here. Basically, I'm replacing the blank fog light covers with the new one. I've got a wiring harness over there on the floor that comes with the kit. And then there's the switch lever, which will replace in the actual steering column itself. So I just started the process. I've got a little Harbor Freight lift. There's a lift point right underneath the center there. Just give me a couple more inches headroom there. It's not really, holding a lot. I did put wheel chocks behind the back wheels just in case. And basically what you need to do to first get access to this, a lot of the forums are talking about removing the whole bumper. I'm going to try to do it without removing the bumper. I just don't like that idea. But if you look underneath the car here, there's one, and down here is a second little plastic. Actually show them to you here. A little plastic screw-in grommet thing. You unscrew those two, and then this whole little side panel right below the fog lights. There's the empty hole. The fog light just comes down. And that gives you enough room. I was able to reach up underneath here, see my hand, and just use a little stubby Phillips screwdriver. You reach up underneath there, and there's 4 screw points on the back of this, and you just feel them and take the screws out. You can see the screws over there. And then this plastic piece falls right out. So I'm going to do it on the other side here, and then I'll get ready to install the lights. So first step is to get those lights in there, and then I'll work on the wiring harness and work my way forward to the steering column on how I'm going to do that. So stay tuned for more here. Okay guys, so here's the second cover off. Takes you about 5 minutes. Just reach up there and get it done. Let's see if we can get these new ones in. Okay guys, so as you can see, I gave up on going underneath. There's just not enough room to screw it in, so everybody's right. You need to remove the bumper. So let me give you a couple hints on removing the bumper. Underneath, there are those plastic screw-in grommets. Some cars have them, some don't. So check, undo those, just like we did on these fenders here when I was first starting. There's a screw. If you go to the wheel, it's easier if you turn your wheels out, but there's a screw right up here that you need to take out. That's what really holds it on. Then I started to take out the headlights. So basically there's a screw here. Up top here on your bumper, you'll have like, I don't know, 6 or 8 more of those screw-in grommets. So you take those out. Then you can pull it back a little bit, and there's a hidden nut back here. Again, that goes to the headlight. It just loosens it up to help the bumper come off. So once you have everything loose on both sides, you'll usually find that there's a little sticking right around this headlight, and you really just kind of got to give it a good pop, and then poof, the whole bumper comes off. So that's my experience so far. I will go next to put these new fog lights into that frame, and then I'll probably go ahead and attach the wiring harness down here and run it across between them. Do some zip ties in there or something, and then I will reinstall the bumper. Something I never thought I would do, but this really is just a rubbery plastic. There's nothing that's structural about this particular bumper. So don't be afraid to give it, you know, a little bit of a yank, and you'll see these, this is where it was catching, and there's these like a clip on this side. And that's really why you've got to give it a good yank, so that this clip, and it's a pretty sturdy clip. I was afraid that they were little clips like what you have on your interior doors and they might break, but nope, popped right off. So that's where we're at. Okay guys, it's really just too simple. You flip the headlight over, there's 4 screws, 1, 2, 3 back here, and 4. They even give a little alignment tab back here so that, you know, everything's aligned right. Now is a good time if you're going to do LED lights, put those in, or whatever you guys do with the HID lights. If you want to put ballasts and all that stuff down here attached to the bumper. But yeah, it took me 5 minutes to put that in. So now I'll look at the wiring harness and see about hooking it up between the two and ending up with the harness, most of it over here. Then hopefully I'll put the bumper back on, and then I can reach down from inside the car and grab that harness and run it around to my fuse box and everything. So that's where we are. Just 10 minutes worth of work once you get the, 30 minutes of taking the bumper off. Okay guys, so I've just kind of laid out my harness here. Basically this lead here, and again this doesn't come with any instructions or anything, but this is the lead that goes through the firewall and will connect up to the switch that's sitting over there. I took the light lead and just kind of looped it through here. The relay really can just set down here. It comes in here nicely right underneath the edge of the headlight, kind of gives it some room. This is going to go to a battery ground. This is going to go to our battery power once we get it up. And I ran the wire, it's kind of hard to see black on black. I ran the wire just right above the grill, and there's a little styrofoam place, again looped underneath the screw bolt there, and came up and did that. I don't see any real places to tie wrap it, and this is all in a nice kind of like a plastic Romex that the wires are in. So I'm just heating up my cheap little glue gun and gonna lay a couple beads on there, enough to hold it. I took some rubbing alcohol down here and wiped down the area just to make sure it's all nice and clean and will bond. So I think that's the way I'm going to route it, and hopefully next we'll have this bumper back up there. Okay guys, here we are, bumper back on. No problems whatsoever. Goes on exactly the reverse. What I did was I kind of maneuvered the bumper on here and then just held it with my knees. and then just got that bolt started to hold it, and then reached over here and got this bolt started to hold it. Then I arranged the bumper. You do have to, you know, pound these in. Matter of fact, you can see there's still a little misalignment there. I'll get that fixed here in just a second. Then you put these screws back in, the ones that go up, or bolts. You put in your wheel grommets. Tighten down your headlight. The other one, make sure you tighten down this underneath here is the other bolt to your headlight. Make sure you tighten that down before you put in those grommets. Put the 4 or 6 grommets back in there. Tighten that down. I'd taken out a couple other grommets that are in the wheel well down there. But yeah, pops right together. No worries whatsoever. It took me about 15-20 minutes to get to here. Then you just reach down your engine bay and grab your wires. There's a ground wire down there, a black one. So I need to find a place down there in the bowels of the engine to ground it to. Shouldn't be too hard. I'm sure there's a screw nearby. This is your power, which should go to your red here. As you can see, I'm 5 inches short. No problem. So I might see if I can rerun that another way, or worst case, I'll just solder a longer lead on there. The black wire here is what's going to go through your firewall back here at some point, which we'll get to in a minute. But the lights are installed. Let me sit down here on the steps. See if we can see them. Nice and low. Real easy. You know, it looks complicated, but it's really not. I mean, it's 4 screws and a couple bolts. So I'm kind of shocked so far. It's taken me about 2.5 hours to get here, and again, I didn't know what I was doing. So yeah, I think my next step is I'm going to work on that alignment, make sure those clips are in. Remember I showed you the white clips that are right underneath the headlights, and make sure that those are popped in and locked. Then I'll leave, there's 2 grommets down here and 2 grommets down here that do the flaps. That's how you get in there to change the light bulb if you ever have to, which was what I was originally going to try to install through. But there really is just no room. You can't see, you can't maneuver. It's strictly for doing those flaps, or doing the changing light bulbs through those flaps. So far so good. I'm going to get this readjusted, and then I'll start looking at the wiring here and seeing how I'm going to permanently route this to my battery, and how I'm going to route the long lead back here. There's a firewall. I need to get my light out here, but there's a firewall entry point down here. You have to basically unwrap the tape on it. There's tape on the inside of the firewall, and then you have to get underneath the dash and unwrap it there. And then supposedly you can take a long screwdriver, tape this into it, and push it through. Or it might actually be easier. This is the new switch that came with the kit, again from Shark Racing. So I don't know, it might be easier to, here it is, this is the one, to push that one from the inside out into here and then lock it in here. All depends on how much wiring I've got, and I haven't gotten that far yet. So but at least she's drivable again, so I can you know, zip tie or tape up those wires and head out on the road if I need to go and get some. So that's where we're at so far. Okay guys, here I am underneath the driver's side wheel flap, and you can see the headlight there that I put in. Here is, let me see, it's hard to hold the camera. black cable, there it is, with that white tag on it. That's the ground that I was talking about. You need to ground it to the frame. And right here is a frame bolt. So that is a 13 millimeter. So I'm going to loosen it off. I'm going to put that white tag thing, if I can find it, there we go, around that bolt and tighten her back down. Nothing to it. Okay guys, change of plans. That's a frame bolt up there is a square. So I just reached around down here. There's another bolt. Actually, I think it grounds to metal somewhere, so we should be fine, but that's where I attached it. So the headlight's right there, and just 2 feet over, not even that, 6 inches. Found a bolt and grounded it in there. So that's where we're at. We should be done with underneath now. Okay guys, I ran out and got just some 14 gauge wire to lengthen my red wire down here, and I won't go into how to solder, but yeah, basically soldered on a new tail, put some shrink wrap around it so it's nice and tight. Then I ran it up through this grommet, or through this hole, and tighten it down on that lug nut. And so now that will shut down like that. I'll take that tag off of there. So there's the power. Now we'll start running this back and see how I'm going to run this back here. And then I'll start breaking into the steering column. Okay guys, so I've got this, stand back here a little bit, just ran my harness around underneath the edge of the battery. It's a straight run back here, and right back there, let's see if I can get my angle, right back there, that's where I want to go through. And I just pulled off a bunch of tape there. You can see it's a little glossier. And there's a little rubber, there we go, you can see that right there, how that peels back, and that's where you're going to try to poke this through the firewall. But I got to get you on the other side and do basically the same thing. Be real careful with this wire here, you don't want to break that. I think that's your brake fluid sensor. But yeah, 2 zip ties, there were some other wires running down there that I was able to connect to. Just make sure you don't run this, you know, next to something that's going to be super hot. It's electrical wiring. You don't want to get it mixed up with the mechanical heat type of systems. But you can see down there, here's where my black wire that goes off to my control. And then here's, you can actually see the fuse there. And I did the splice, and it comes up and goes into that box for power. So I also discovered there's a grounding screw right there. I don't think the ground that I attached underneath would fit up there. I'd have to solder on, but if I have to, if it doesn't light up for something, for some reason, I'll do that. But I don't think that's necessary. I think that's just basically a mechanical ground. But I think the pan I've got it to will suffice. So now I'm ready to basically start tearing apart, so that we're loosely taking apart the steering wheel column. In here, it's my understanding there's a couple screws down here. And then there's 2 screws. You can see one of them right there. So you have to turn your steering wheel, and then you turn it the other way, and there's the other one. And then this part right here, you can kind of see that seam right there. Those 2 parts will pop off, and you can take the top off, and then we can look at what we have to do for this arm. I think from what I've read, you have to take off your the steering wheel, which kind of scares me a little bit because you've got the airbag in there and all that. But everything I've said is if we just disconnect the power from the battery, wait about a half an hour, then we should be able to do that. We don't have to worry about the airbag going off or anything like that. No special pulleys or anything needed. From what I've read, some cars you need a steering wheel pulley to pull the steering wheel out. Hyundai doesn't do that. And then we can get into changing, excuse me, changing out to the new switch. And from the looks of this, because this has got a big circle in it, I'm saying yes, I'm going to have to take that whole steering wheel off. So this is your new switch. You'll see there's mine I got with the auto. I don't currently have that. So the lights will automatically come on now if it gets dark, which is awesome. And then here's the actual, get a hold of that, the actual fog light switch. And my current one, if you take a look, and this is just the basic model, I don't know what that is in Hyundai terms, if that's just an LS or what, but the basic model that I've got now, you can see I don't have auto and I don't have fog lights. So that is why I'm going to replace it with this new switch, which should give me that functionality. So stay tuned for more. So here you can see I have disconnected both my battery terminals. You really only need to do, I think, the negative one, but sure, why not? And I'll take this opportunity to take some sandpaper and clean those off because I see a little bit of rust or corrosion going in there. So it's a good time to take care of that. Just do some daily maintenance before I start on the steering wheel column. Okay guys, here we are on the steering wheel. And loosened it up here. There's one hole right there. That's an 8mm. I haven't looked in here. I don't seem to see anything up there that might be holding that cover on. So I think it's that one, and then the 2 screws in the steering wheel. So we'll find out here shortly. Okay guys, time to take the airbag off here, which is this center section. And basically, if you reach around the edge of the steering wheel, oops, put my light on here. There we go. If you reach around the edge of the steering wheel, you'll see these little itsy bitsy holes here, and then there's some screws here. Those screws out, don't know if it's necessary, but basically there's 3 of those itty bitty holes. There's one on this side, one on this side, and there's one at the bottom. And there's 3 lock pins in here, and they go in, and there's little pins that spring out when they go in. So just take a small Allen wrench, screwdriver, whatever, poke it through there, and you'll poke those pins in, and then the whole bag should just pop out without going off, I might add. So get this in here. Let's see if we can. Okay, you can kind of see that edge came out there. Doesn't take a lot of pressure. Getting too old for this stuff. We'll show you there. Kind of see that one popped out, I think, a little bit. Now let's reach down here underneath. Reach around. There's the hole. There we go. I felt that one give. I felt that one give. I did not feel the right hand side give, but let's see. it's still latched in there. You gotta jiggle it around a little bit. There it goes. All right. So this is your airbag, and you can see the cables and everything. So we'll disconnect these cables up here at the top, and then we'll work on taking the steering wheel off next. Okay guys, here we are with the airbag all the way out. This just unplugs right from there. This plugs into the back of the airbag. It's a little copper wire. And then these two are what scared the living bejiminies out of me. But they just sit right on top there, and they just pull straight out. I use a little screwdriver to take those guys and pop them straight out. Airbags removed, so moving on to the next step. Okay guys, 21 mil deep socket, and you can break that center bolt loose. Okay, now before we remove the steering wheel, this is important. Get yourself a Sharpie here and go in here and mark. And you can actually kind of see they've already marked it for you. My camera won't focus here. There's little indents so that it's top and top. That way you're not off just a little bit, and then your steering is kind of compromised by that. So I'll make some extra little marks, make that a little darker so that I don't forget rather. And it's also because I like the smell of Sharpie. So there we go, that's a little bit better. So now you can see those marks. And now we can take the steering wheel off, and we know we can realign it straight when we put it back on. So again, really cool. You just kind of bang on it and pull straight out, and she pops out. Your wires actually go through there, so when we reconnect it, we'll make sure we feed our wires through there. So steering wheel's off. So now you just go at a seam with your hands or a small screwdriver, and the top pops off the console, and here's the bottom part of the console. So we're going to take off this clock spring next, and then we'll be at the section where we can start looking at our light switch. Okay guys, so here's our little clock spring. You'll see there are these little tabs. First you undo the yellow and white connections down here. Those are facing at the bottom. So you undo those connections, and then you kind of pull this tab down. There's one here, there's one on the right, and then there's one at the very top there. And if you pry those off, this is a plastic part, by the way, and then the whole thing just pops right off. So yeah, click and stick, so to speak. So now, wow, we're down to the good part. So let's take a look and see what our next steps are going to be. Okay guys, so right back here, and I'm on the right hand side here with the washers. Probably can't see from my big hands, but there's a white connector that we need to get out, and you just kind of push up, wiggle, and she'll pop out. And then I'm looking to see if this one is still, if I look at the new one that I got, it looks like this right hand side here plugs into the left hand side somehow. So I'm seeing like again that it's another click thing. I see some, if I look at this and how this is made, I see some points where that just kind of slides in and snaps into the current assembly. So I'm going to play around with this, and I'll need both hands to do that. But once I find those pressure points, we'll lift them up a little bit, and then this should just pull straight out. And sure enough, guys, there's one major click point right here. You take a small screwdriver in there, pry it up a little bit, and this thing just slid right out. So now we'll look at taking off the rest of this and go from there. Okay, if I look at this, there's one screw right down here, and then there's another wire bundle that you have to pinch and pull out. And then it probably twists and comes out here. So we'll give that a try. Okay, so there's a second screw that I didn't see because it's way down in that hole there. So this screw down here, this screw down here, and then there's two little catch latches on the back, and that should pull right off. And we are victorious. So this pulled right out, and that was that little screw that I was just telling you about. So now we're ready to put the new one with the new switches back in and start the reassembly here. So, okay guys, so these are the wires that come out of the new assembly for the kit. One of them goes to a fuse box. Read that. There we go. We're splicing to driving light wire. And the other one is the other end that has to go through that firewall that I was talking about to meet up with the battery connection. So since we have everything off, now's a good time to get down here, or at least to push them through and get that headed in the right direction anyway, and then we can clean those up later. Of course, there's one of them, and here's the other, and they'll end up running, especially that fuse one. Got it wrapped around here, so you want to make sure you don't do something like that and wrap it around your steering wheel adjuster. But there's a little hook back there, so I'll probably tie them up there, back there, and then run them through here. And when I pry this off, I'll show you that once I get the steering wheel back on. This whole panel here comes off, and there should be a little fuse box hidden back there. And that's where this fuse one that I was just showing you is going to plug in. And then this one will go down through the firewall. So, but these are on. Might test them out, make sure, you know, all the functions work. But we should be good. So I'll reconnect back here, and I'll just finish up the assembly here, and I'll tune us back in when I'm down to torquing the steering wheel back on and putting on the airbag. Okay guys, here we are. So clamp the top and back down. They just snap together like a little clamshell. Again, just make sure everything, you know, moves freely. Make sure you've done all your connections. I fed my my wires back through. I lined up my black dots that I made. I just hand tighten that. So I've got my, what is this, a 21? Yeah, 21 millimeter in there, and I'm going to torque this down. I need to look up the specs on what to torque it to, but I'll find out here, and I'll tell you in a second as soon as I'm putting the airbag back on. Okay guys, I'm seeing 65 to 80 foot-pounds, so I'll set my torque wrench to 70 and torque it down. Okay guys, so steering wheel's back on, Now we gotta take those two yellow connectors and they go yellow and blue, and they're marked as such on mine. And that little black with the white goes right, where is it? Right there on that little copper tab there. That's where that goes in. And then the airbag will fold up like a little clamshell here, and it just pushes in. These are the little springs that we were talking about, where it has the tab that pops out when it's seated, and that's what we were doing with the Allen wrench, was pushing those, that little tab right there in, so that the airbag would pop out. So it just pushes right in. And job done. So got our steering wheel in there. We got our new uber high-tech 1995 switch. Now we're ready to feed our wiring along here and plug in the fuse and then go through the firewall. So we're almost done. We're getting there. All right, guys, now don't forget to put the screws on back here and the screws in there. Now's a good time to clean up your workspace here. Make sure you haven't missed any screws or left anything out. That's how I discovered my almost faux pas there. So for me, the fuse box is right here, and you just pull out this thing that actually says on it fuse. And we're going to look here and see if we can find where we might want to put this wire. Up here, I'll try to turn the light on once I locate which one it is here I'm going to use. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So in the dark, it's too dark, and with the light bulb on, it's too light. But let's see if we can do something here. Basically, if I look at my diagram here, the fuse is a 15 amp fuse that comes with it. All of these spare ones up here are 10 or 7.5 amp. I do have a spare 20 amp that's on the far left hand side. It's the second one up from the bottom. I think that's what I'm going to use, which is right there, second from the bottom. So I'll pull that, and then this thing, you can see, just plugs right into that fuse box, and then there's an extra fuse here underneath of it. So kind of a cool thing, but that's what we'll do next. So no fuse puller in there, so I had to go and grab my needle nose. I pulled that out, stuck that one in, slid right in, and now I've just got this little loop. So I'm going to take some zip ties and kind of loop that up and zip tie it around here. It's just pulling from over here, if you remember, right above us, really. And that's really the only thing that's, got it. If you look down here, you don't see it. We looped it around this, so we don't have to worry about crimping it when we tighten up our steering wheel. So we're all in good shape. So I'll do that. I'll put the fuse cover box back on, and then I'll get down here and find my entry point from the firewall and start thinking about getting that thing through into the engine bay. Okay, so here we are down underneath the dashboard, and there's the where we want to go through for our firewall, and you'll see there's that tape is taped up over it. So I'll unwrap that tape, and then you should find the rubber grommet, get myself a long screwdriver, and see if I can't work this rather large adapter through there. I might end up cutting the adapter off, putting the wire through, and then resoldering it on the other side. not a big deal if I have to do that. Okay guys, so I couldn't find the end of that tape. Took some razor blade and carefully cut that back until I can get in there. I've got just a bent coat hanger, and I'm going to try to push that through here. In just a minute, I'll tape that end on and see how we do. I don't know if I'm going to have enough room in there to really get that. I don't know. There's a lot of room in there to get that grommet through with it. I'll try. Otherwise, I might end up cutting it off and then solder it back on the other side. So stay tuned. Okay, so here we are. That taped up, and we're just going to try to push it through. All right, so I could not get that grommet through there, or with the connector on it, so I cut the connector off, put that through it. I'm now going to take some cable ties and just tie it up to here, and we'll be good to go. And then I'll hop in on the other side and see where it came out. Okay, so you can see there's my wire hanger there with my red tape. So I'll reach down there and get. Okay guys, so I could not get the connector re-soldered on there. Oh, sorry about that. Could not get the connector reconnected on there. Not enough hands to hold it and light and solder down here. I ended up tinning the two wires. I just cut the connectors off the ends, tinned the two wires, soldered them together, and then put shrink wrap on top, left a little on the top of it, and folded it over and gave it a good squeeze with the needle nose. When it was still hot, made a nice solid connection. So I need to clean that up there with some cable wraps and black tape. And then my final connection, I thought that was my final one, but there's actually one more. Just this little black guy right here. And he goes to grounding point, which is right there if you see it. So we'll get it, we'll get that going next, and then we'll close this down. Okay guys, so just finished up. My battery reconnected here. Remember, my red wire runs around up into that cap and attaches. Black wire comes around here between this, comes down here and gets connected. I did a little bit of black tape magic, and I grounded to that grommet there in the firewall. I've taped everything up. I heard the power come on. Let's see. I got my keys in the car. Airbag didn't go off. That's a good sign. That's what worried me the most. Let's see. So let's turn the fog lights on. It's still too light to see anything, I think. But it's possible the LED bulbs or the other grounding pin. Sometimes the LED bulbs are sensitive. I think I have to have my low lights on too, if I remember. Awesome. I got no lights right now, so I've hooked something up wrong. Or missed a connection. Hopefully not, where I have to take the steering wheel back off and double check all those connections, but I think the lights in here seem to direct to it. So I'll get a little bit of troubleshooting to do. You can see the lights dim and go on with it, so we'll see what's going on here, and then I'll go from there, do a little bit of troubleshooting, and I'll be back. Alright guys, so I've checked my fuses. They all look good. I'm thinking something didn't get plugged in all the way on the back of that switch. Because I can put my highlights on here and you can see, and there's nothing happening with just my regular lights. My regular lights working fine. I really didn't do anything wrong. There wasn't anything wrong with them to start with. So there's no way to test this. I guess I could have left the steering wheel and everything off and not put that back on until you know, after I'd wired everything up, just to make sure the switch and everything was working well. So that might be a bit of advice on this, but I'm pretty sure that it's the connector on the back. Maybe it didn't clip in all the way. I'm really hoping it's not that switch. If it is that multifunction switch, I'll be a little upset about that because I'll have to put the old one back on and then wait, call and do an RMA and wait for replacement, etc. and so forth. But I'm pretty sure it's got to do with that switch or the connection on the back of that switch, because otherwise my regular lights would be working, and you're just seeing sunlight from the garage door there. But you can see I've got my highlights on and nothing is coming on. So those lights should work normally. So that leads me to believe that my problem is just in my switch. Kind of a knucklehead move, but there was no way to test that out until after I'd put everything through the firewall and hooked up all the electric. So now I've got to disconnect the battery, probably wait about half an hour before I take the airbag out, blah, 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 because I don't want that going off on me. And then I'll be able to test it at that switch. I'll make sure it's working from the switch first. Hopefully it'll work. And it's just a simple case of the clip not being clipped in all the way. So we'll give that a shot. Okay, guys. So, yeah, funny story. When I took the bumper off this morning, I unplugged the headlights, and that's why I had no headlights. So, you'll see I've got regulars, I've got brights. My fog lights still are not working, and I think it's that ground issue where I hooked it to that pan on the bottom. So I'm going to go down there, take my own meter, voltmeter, and check it out. See if we're getting connectivity and signals and all that fun stuff. But normal lights, turn signals, left, right, all that works fine. I just have a simple problem somewhere. Probably with that grounding screw on why the fog lights aren't working. So that's where I'm heading next. Okay, YouTubers, I have figured out my issue with the new OEM fog lights from Shark Racing. Some of it was me, and some of it was my understanding of the Korean that was written on the tags. So the first thing is, if you remember when I started, we had a battery ground that was way down here that I had connected to the pan. And it really does, it's a true neutral, negative. So I spliced in this wire down at the bottom, and there's actually two wires that go out. One, I assume, goes to this headlight, one goes to passenger headlight. To complete the circuit. So this needs to come back up to negative. So I'm going to fix that, and I'll actually, depending if I can get my ratchet down there, and you guys can't see with the dark in here, but there's a bolt down there for negative, and might hook it up there. You'll see I've got my battery charger on here, so I'm just pushing up the juice because I've been playing with the headlights and haven't had the car running. So that was the first issue on the inside. Easy fix. I mean, other than I had to get on my back to solder the connections underneath. Then the other thing is with the fuse box inside. So this in the Sonata, at least the 2013 Sonata, there is no fog light or low light lamp. Where you want to plug this in at is that one right next to the wiper, the IG1. So second over, third down. And you can kind of see where I plug that in at. This fuse also, let me just pull it out of there. This fuse also, it only comes with one fuse in it. So you need to take your 20 amp fuse out and put it in there as well. It's some sort of double fuse, and I'm not sure why that one's 15 amp. What was in there was that 20. So I just put the 20 in there. And once I did that and plugged it into the IG1, I had it into a, what did I have it into here? Something down here, I can't remember which. But once you put it into the IG1, that's very important, then you start to get the functionality that you want. So just two little minor mistakes. I'm trying to get this back up here with one hand. So I'll get this plugged back in here, and then I'll give you a demo. Of course, it's daylight out, but at least you'll be able to see what I see. Okay, guys, here we go. So got this plugged back out, and you'll actually see all sorts. Okay, guys, I'm not sure if my phone video cut off or what, but here you can see the passenger side light, the fog light, and the driver's side. So these are working now. Like I said, the one that's labeled battery ground actually goes to the negative post. It's the one I ignored down there, and I soldered this wire on it. Make sure your fuse, at least for the 2013, is in the IG1 fuse in there, and there's two fuses in their little thing. There's actually one fuse in there, so you're expected to take the other fuse out and put it into their little adapter and then plug it in, and it should work. So I think most of these dashboard lights are just because my battery's low, because I've been playing with it. But you can hear it, hear the relay click. Now I don't have a light, if you notice down here, for the fog lights. So I have found a hack, or a mod, I guess I should say, that will supposedly light up the driver's side light on the panel. So that's my next thing. I'm going to go ahead and pop this out, and I'll probably just continue this video. So that is where we're at, guys. It's really neat, and I think you can see a little bit of the light there when I do the fog lights on by themselves. There is one of the forums I was reading, there's some state laws where you can't have your fog lights on without your lows, and when your highs come on, your fog lights are supposed to go off. You know, I take no responsibility for that, guys. Check, make sure you're legal. I would think that cops have better things to do, but you know how it is when they have to make their quota on fines. So that's where we're at. I'm going to start doing the mod now, where I take out the dashboard, and I'll do some more on that to hopefully get the light going in here. I think it's down here somewhere, or maybe it's up top there, where it should light up to tell us that our fog lights are on. And then we'll be finished with this. So all in all, it's been pretty good. Okay, guys, to remove the console 2013, just release your steering wheel and get it down. I've got my clam case open because I'm working on the fog lights. This little center section right here, from here to here, literally you just yank it out. Pops out, little spring clips in there. 2 screws down here. that will take out, and then you just kind of pull this out, working one side against the other, and the whole console will come out and can lay up here on top of your dash while you work on it. So that's how you take your console out. Pretty simple. Just showing you guys, it does just kind of pull out. You kind of have to keep working on it until it snaps. On the back here is the connector, and you just push down and pull that plug out, and then the whole console will come out here. And there you go. There's the connector, and here's our console with our bulbs and all of this. So what we need to find now, my understanding, I've got to go look a couple things up, but basically I think there's a wire in here that we have to jumper. I don't know which wire it is yet, but I'll find out. And I think we're going to be doing something like you see some of those blank spaces in there. Like we'll tap into the black one and then plug in, you know, to port 16 or something there. That's okay, guys. Here you can see the fog lights in action, kind of dusk, where before there was nothing. So I'll be adding the pinouts here probably in the next week or so on how to get the dash console light working. I just need to find the pinout diagrams and then get that working. But pretty awesome. Very nice.